Viveka from the Nourished Caveman and the Healing Foods Method, and I'm here this morning to talk about a pretty controversial topic and something that I just really came in contact with a couple of days ago. And I had to change the topic of my Facebook Live for this week because I felt that this was so important for our lifestyle, our conversation in keto, and especially keto paleo, keto carnivore, everything that I've been doing for the last few years. And I was like slamming into a wall for me, really like just being dropped into the awareness of, like, in a real situation that I have never been before, what happens when somebody gets food shamed for his choices, for his healthy food choices. So before we jump straight into the story, I would like to premise we're going to talk about health food shaming today. For all of us who have been on this ketogenic path or have made any food choices that are different from what the mainstream, what is socially acceptable or mainstream acceptable. And we just kind of start sticking out or having to say no to what is offered to us because of our choices. Sometimes those choices are driven by health, sometimes by just personal preference. So I want to premise something. I come from Italy. Thank you, Dawn. So as you guys come in, another thing, I really would like you to join this conversation with me because I want to hear your experience here in America. I'm Italian, so let me address this topic. I'm Italian. I come from Italy. And you think Italy is much better as far as food choices. It's true. But at the same time, Italians are extremely dogmatic about their pasta and their breads. And so I know that, even though I'd never experienced being shamed myself for my choices, I have returned to Italy several times since being keto and had to face the fact to how to present, how to explain, how to share my experience as a different eater. I have a friend who was diagnosed as a celiac in Italy about 8 or 9 years ago. And I remember her just throwing a fit, literally, when she got the diagnosis. And I had been telling her, muscle testing her and telling her, you can't eat gluten, you can't eat gluten. And she just didn't want to listen. And then when she got the celiac diagnosis, she had a complete meltdown. And she told me, she was crying and she's like, this is not fair. Do you know how hard it is to tell people that I'm not eating pizza and pasta? Do you know how hard it is to find things to eat? Do you know how difficult it's going to be? And I was like, you know what? I personally don't think it's that hard, but maybe I am not, immersed in that environment in Italy. I am here, and we're going to talk about here in a second. But I know that half of Italy is pretty much celiac now, and that's due to all the bad grains. So the products, within the last 5-6 years, the products for gluten-free in Italy have completely boomed, and there is no way you can feel deprived anymore. Even the restaurants have gluten-free pizza. So anyways, this kind of is a bit of an introduction, but let's really get into what happened and what happens here with food shaming and why and how you can best stick to your choices and be powerful and strong in your choices of making better choices for yourself. So what I saw this couple of days ago, I was with a dear friend at his family came at his house, and the family came over for a barbecue, and I just started taking care of his health because he has had multiple surgeries on his gut and he has Crohn's. It's a very delicate situation. It's going to be a very challenging case. And my first recourse was to eliminate all the bad stuff from his diet. And just looking in the fridge, I could see that he had dairy, he has tortillas, he has bread, fried stuff, really bad. So I was like, you need to really commit to this way of life and just clean up. And then the family came over and I understood part of the difficulty that he had been having in cleaning up his diet, because he did clean up his diet before. But then, good morning, Denise, he went back. He went back to eating just whatever. And, so what happened is that he got kind of teased. Sorry guys, internet problems here again. I think I'm back on. So, really rude comments with like, yeah, you're gonna go to the bathroom all day anyways, you might as well enjoy the food. So let's just examine for a second what's at the root of those behaviors. Why do humans behave like this? Why, hey, thank you for watching. Why do humans behave like this to one another? What is it? Oh, sorry guys. It's a little moldy here where I am, and there it goes. Why do we have to not, instead of being supportive to our own family, people we love, and we like our best friends, our colleagues at work, we care about these people, right? Those are people around us that we want around, and we want them to be healthy. But when it comes to something like this, we do not hesitate to lash out. And we forget that that's not their best interest. Why does that happen? Somebody made a comment on my Instagram. I made a post yesterday about this on Instagram, so you guys can go and look at it and look at all the amazing comments. I haven't caught up to the comments on Facebook because I was traveling again yesterday. But one thing that, good morning, Avara. One thing that I just sat and thought about and all the comments, and I'm like, you know me, my work is root causes. I go for the roots, I dig deep, and I try to create strategies in coping with the dysfunction, and also like try to understand what are the roots so we can become aware of them and then be able to create better behaviors and have better choices. This is, again, my motto should be, my t-shirt, my keto t-shirt should be not just about the macros, Keto is not just about the macros. So what is the root of the behavior of food shaming? Somebody made a really good point in the comment. I don't remember her name, I'm sorry, but that food is belonging, and food is, good morning, Cynthia. Food is a way that we express love and caring. And that comes from our childhood when our parents, I feel a lot of parents, they try to soothe their kids, or they try to indulge their kids and show their kids they're caring through food. So like somebody told me, my grandpa would come over, one of my new patients. Grandpa would come over and mom was working, so grandpa would watch us. And the way grandpa showed his affection to us was with food. So he fed us candy all the time, and chocolate and cake. And we were happy, and he felt happy, and there was love expressed. But that love made me obese at age 12. So do you see already that it's a dysfunctional behavior that we are raised into, not just individually, but as a culture. And as a culture, like, we identify with certain things. And food is a big one that cultures identify with, because food should be local. And most people that live in an area or a place, they start eating the same things. Like Italians eat certain things, and then Greeks eat certain things, and Middle Easterns eat certain things. But we start really identifying to the point that we really take on that persona that if I eat matzo balls, and if I eat chopped liver, I am Jewish. And if I'm Jewish, I should eat matzo ball, hi Danielle, and chopped liver, and I should not eat, for example, certain other things. And this is a slightly different rabbit hole right there. So let's not go into that rabbit hole. We'll talk about food and religion and dogma some other times. But this is another form of food dogma, even if it's not in a sacred text. Like, saying that you have to eat chocolate cake is not in any sacred text, but it's kind of taken a bit as a dogma, because if you don't want to eat it because it's socially acceptable, that means you are outside. And what it really means to the person who brought the cake to the party is that they made it, they brought it, that's their way to express your love and caring, their love and caring for you. And so when you reject that cake, you reject their love and caring. So it's really, sorry guys, stuffy this morning. We'll talk about mold some other times. That's a big topic. So you reject their love and caring. That person feels rejected. And think about it. Why do we eat a lot of times? We eat to belong. And when we feel lonely, it's not just we eat alone, but in Italy, for example, we are a food culture. I eat to enjoy, I eat to belong, I eat to be with my friends. When I go to Italy, there is eternal long dinners and we sit together and eat and drink wine and talk and another course. And in America it's a little different, but still I think that eating to belong, it's a really big issue. Like, the moment we separate from the herd, let's say, and we take our own path and we start making different food choices, especially because a lot of time food sharing is a common time. It's the only time we might be able to spend with our families because we're working all day and we're running around like crazy. And then it comes dinner time, or it comes especially celebrations. And that I know is a good tricky point for a lot of you guys, because you know, a lot of you, I had a patient yesterday, Kim, she's like, we are going out of time for a celebration. What are we going to do? Because everybody's going to come together, bring things, and then there is going to be that pressure. Why? Because they want you to belong. They want you to be part of the family. So if we really look underneath the food shaming, I think that we will find a positive root, like the expression of love, the wanting to belong. There is nothing wrong with that. But how we express this, how we translate it into our action and our relationship, our behavior with others, that can be tricky. And I don't want to say wrong, because I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your experience. I want to hear how you navigated that. What was your comeback? Let's have a conversation about this, because I want to learn more. And it's not just about me giving you advice. This is a conversation. And I very much would like to keep it open, two-way conversation, because it's important. And this is part of keeping you on track on your path. When you choose ketogenic, when you choose keto paleo, when you choose keto carnivore, whichever degree of better, healthy lifestyle and food you choose, this is about keeping you successful and on track. So for me, okay, let's look the root. The root is positive. We want to belong. Our family wants us to belong. And the other thing is, there is another facet to that, because, we live in a dual world. So there is duality. There is love on this side. There is fear and pain on the other side. So let's look at the other side for a second. We look to the side that they want us, they love us, they want us to belong. The other side is their own fear and their pain, because at a deep level, we all have a moral compass, or we have an intuition that tell us when something is right or something is wrong. And even people that are in deep denial about their food choices, they know that what they're doing is not self-serving. They know that all the ice cream, cake, and other things that are eating and bringing, they're not helping them. I've heard people a couple of days ago mention that, and they know. They knew. They're not that ignorant. They're not that blind. So your not moral, but your inner intuitive compass like the deep voice inside you tells you, this is not helping you. I'm eating this giant piece of cake full of sugar, and you're not going to feel that great afterwards. So you get a feedback from your body. It's not just your intuition. You know you're going to feel like crap. And you know the next day after eating, a bunch of gluten, you're going to wake up and you're not feeling great. And your blood sugar goes up and down like a roller coaster, and you crash and you have no energy. Then you have to drink coffee, and then the coffee crashes, and then you have to have more, and then you have sugar cravings because you're tired or because your sugar was roller coastering. So when we do unhealthy things, we know there is no excuse. I know that within all of you who have been there before, or maybe still struggling with it now, do you know what's better? So what happens when you are in that vicious cycle of like sugar, gluten, carbs, crappy food, convenience food, supermarket foods, no nutrients, your body's not doing good, you're sick, you're taking 3-4 medications, they're not helping. You're in that world. And what happens when you see somebody who's trying to make a different choice is your fear comes up. You're really triggered. Like your deep triggers of inadequacy come up, and then you feel hurt because you feel like they're trying to make themselves better than you, and you feel inferior. And what the person does when they feel less or feel inferior, they get defensive and they lash out. And so that even ironic little comments, little darts thrown out, it's just the person's own feelings of inadequacy that are speaking. And mostly it is in any situation, but we're going to stick to the food shaming context here because this could be a bigger conversation. So how do we handle that? Well, I always refer back to the basics, and I handle it with love and compassion. This is my basis, my, platform, my ground. I try to ground myself into love and compassion for myself and for others. And man, this is when you get triggered because trigger here. So it goes back and forth. If you get triggered, you trigger me. And then boom, it's a big explosion. So sometimes this vicious cycle of triggering and spiraling back into I feel triggered, I make a bad comment. Oh, you should eat that cake anyways because, you're going to the bathroom 50 times a day anyways. And the other person will be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Fuck it. Why? Why should I even do it? And there it goes. There goes the cake. And the next day it's misery. So that's a vicious spiral that goes down. And how do we turn that around? It's like love and compassion for yourself first, and then for the other person. So I got a couple of tips on how to handle these situations, and this is where I really would like to hear your feedback. If you're there, hello, people watching. So first step for me is becoming aware of the triggers and being kind of under attack in a way, but knowing that that person is getting triggered by me. So diffusing the situation with firmness and kindness. I'm saying, yes, I know. And I'm sure your cake is absolutely amazing. It smells delicious. I see it's beautiful. You put a lot of love into this. But I really cannot do this today because I will be very sick. And I know you care about me. And I know you want to see me well. Because I really appreciate your caring. And I appreciate your caring in making this food for me. Simple communication goes a long way sometimes when we are able to not get triggered. So just stay in your ground, but in a good, compassionate, kind way. We don't want to escalate these behaviors, right? If we see people that are actually so in a bad place that they have to say mean comments or bully, that makes me just sad, And I am a fiery Italian. I have a temper, and I tell you that I can lash out like that. And I used to in the past. But that's not productive, and doesn't serve me or the other person, And especially as a coach as somebody who guides my patients into navigating these kind of situations. If I'm not able to practice that myself, that would be kind of hypocritical, right? So the first thing you do is you come back, and yes, you can play funny, make a little joke, but also just be really yourself and firm and ground in your kindness for yourself, and express your love and gratitude to the other person for bringing food. Then there is another little trick that is more sneaky, but sometimes we might need it. There might be people that we know they're very difficult, or they really trigger us, or they're really close family and we're having a super hard time. Good morning, Kirsten. Thank you for watching. So we can use what I call food decoys. So you make your own keto equivalent or keto paleo equivalent of whatever they might be bringing. So if you're going to a big family gathering, the most dangerous foods are sweets and desserts, breads, cocktails. So you just make your own equivalents and bring them. You make a big, giant, beautiful keto cake that you can actually eat. And then you're like, very innocently, not even really talk about what it is. Just bring it and bring keto cocktails. And you bring keto bread and keto bagels. And I have a pretty good recipe on the blog for those keto bagels, and strongly recommend them. My patients love them. So you bring a big load of your own stuff, and then you don't even go in their face and say, look, this is my good stuff and yes, your bad stuff. You just put it on there, and when it comes to picking, you just choose your stuff. And if they comment like, oh, what is this? This tastes different. This is not Wonder Bread. Oh, this is seeds in it. Whatever might come at you, you just tell them, I'm just learning a new way of cooking, experimenting. I'm sorry you don't like it. I'll eat it. That's fine. I'll take home the leftovers. Play it off. You know, this is kind of like a more political, let's call it, way to address these situations. And especially when it comes to family gatherings, I say go prepared. Bring your own stuff. You know, and if you can't bring your own stuff, you can always, like nowadays, even in the most remote places, I was in a pretty small, tiny town here in California, and I know, yes, it's California, but they still had an amazing health food store that had all kinds of prepared foods. They were like acceptable choices if I had to do it. So maybe it was a dairy-free cheesecake, and yes, it will be more carbs than my normal what I eat. Maybe it's a gluten-free bread that you have to buy. And a carb up, you can always squeeze in a carb up. You know, it's not the end of the world, you know it. But it's better to have a carb up than to cheat with gluten or to ingest gluten or dairy, which is going to set us back months in our process of cleaning up the body, turning down the autoimmune response, really like taking care of our health in a deep way. Especially, you guys, when it comes to autoimmune, it's a big deal. And I'm not going to go into talking about molecular mimicry right now and what gluten and dairy can do to us because of the molecular mimicry. We'll save this for another time. Those of you who want to like engage in this kind of topic and want to seem smart and or have an audience that is just not educated, because there is that point too. And before I finish, I'm just going to make you this last point. It's about education and ignorance. Sometimes it's all about just educating people. And this is what I try to do as much as possible, is educate on why we make better choices. So sometimes talking, if you have a receptive audience, talking about molecular mimicry and why the gluten proteins will leak through your gut and will like turn against you because activate the autoimmune process on your thyroid, for example, or on your own intestines, like in the case of Crohn's, or, you know, if you have any other autoimmune condition. Why is it so important that you don't even touch that stuff? Educate. So love and compassion, explain, diffuse the situation, and then the last thing, try to educate them. pull up Uncle Google and Wikipedia and Google molecular mimicry. There is so much good information out there. And do it without preaching. Preaching never comes out really good. So it doesn't come through. So try to engage them in a discussion, in a conversation, plant seeds. And sometimes that's all we can do. Plant seeds of awareness in people so that we can all kind of evolve together. We can all live better lives together. We can all be healthier, happier, and loving together. So I think this was all I had to say. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you guys for following me as we go through these journeys together, these experiments, this, crazy process of life, crazy process of healing. I think we live in pretty crazy times, and it's stressful, is a lot. We're dealing with a lot every day. So trying to keep a moment for ground in your health, in your food, and in your daily practices. And educate and inspire and all that good stuff that I want to bring to you. Thank you for watching once more, and I'll see you next week. I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm in Oregon right now, and I am facing this beautiful door because I couldn't find a place to shoot outside this morning. But hopefully next week I'll show you a beautiful side of this forest, and if I find a place with reception. Please look at my Instagram. This discussion is going on there on the barbecue post. It's called Reality Check, that post. Also on Facebook, it's right here on this page. And there is going to be, this video will be posted on the Nourish Caveman blog and on YouTube. So you have access, find me, engage with me, please. Let's talk about this. Let's bring awareness. Let's make this happen.